going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 109 of the Offshore Gamescast. Little baby boy Dave just got done with his nap time, and he's ready to complain.
Big man Dylan just got done with his work shift, and he's ready to crack open a cold one with the boys.
Little baby boy Dave just got done cooking chicken.
Lyle is not here, as we said last week.
Mhm.
Just some scheduling issues, but she will be back next week. Today, Dave, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Atlas Fallen, and yes, it has.
Next week, on the 31st of August, Lyle is back to talk about Stray Gods, the musical
Role-playing musical.
Yeah.
It's still something I want to do.
And then September 7th will be our WrestleQuest episode. As we had previously said, it got delayed to line up with the delay of the game, which is out now.
Look at that.
So we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. And Dave, what have we really been doing in our spare time?
So, if anyone's curious, just to give you the heads up, because it's gonna be a while. As you can see, sometimes it takes us a couple weeks to be able, just with our schedule and how things are set up and interest wise, to be able to cover certain games. But we will 100% be covering both Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield at some point when we can.
Yeah, those are not the types of games to just play a little bit of and then be like, we know enough to review this. These are the games that, to see everything, you gotta really put the hours in.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm honestly, I'm pretty sure Lyle's not going to be playing Starfield.
I don't remember if she's commented one way or another.
I can't remember.
She does
either.
have Baldur's Gate 3.
She does have Baldur's Gate 3, so I can only imagine how long that episode is going
That
to be.
is, has it happened where all three of us have played the game that we're talking about, like at that time of the episode?
I don't think so. This will be the first one, and honestly, not surprising. Baldur's Gate is a goddamn release. Because I remember like what 2020, 2019 or so when those cinematic trailers were coming out, and I was like, oh boy, I could not give two shits. Like, who cares? Dumbass PC game, whatever. I'm never gonna get my little grubby mitts on that, and here I am, a good 15 hours deep with two characters, and one of them is locked away behind your code. Can't have them.
That's right, the prisoner. Mitch is my prisoner.
Mitch can't do the things that Mitch wants to do.
Yeah, it's, remember way back when we did our episode of Zelda and we were like, yeah, there's no way. I think
there's no way that any other game could be better.
Yeah, this is gonna be game of the year. And then the ones we were considering were like Starfield, Spider-Man, stuff like that. This one and now
exactly, that was with those in mind. But even so, like initially, did like what caused you to get Baldur's Gate?
I kind of bought into the review hype a little bit.
So literally up until like what, a week before or like the week of release, you probably weren't gonna play it.
No, especially like this is the same people that did Divinity Original Sin 2 and like played a little bit of that co-op and was like, the game seemed cool and it was fun, but it didn't like hook me, you know? We played it the one time and was like,
yeah,
I never got the urge to go back to it. But then there's like all the reviews coming out about this. We watched the trailers. I was like, do you want to try a co-op with my girlfriend? And we did. And now we have a co-op playthrough together. Then we have a co-op playthrough with you together, three of us. And then she has, I don't know how many characters. I have 3 solo characters. And probably put about 50-ish after playing with you the other night. No, 45 maybe.
It's like I was saying, I
barely done anything.
I just checked like the Steam page, and it said I have about 15.3 hours in, which whatever the time I played with you, but it's like, it's crazy because my current playthrough, because I only have the one character, is only 9 hours, and I know I've done so much reloading and just like, all right, Here's a whole battle that was like 45 minutes, but it's really not going the way I want it to go. Even though I might win it, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it better this time.
It's yeah, it might be a bit for that episode. It honestly, realistically, probably months away.
It's I mean, we've talked about this before, and I know this is dragging on at this point, but we've talked about this before, but this year especially is insane. Like
Yeah.
being not only struggling enough to have time to be able to do stuff like this and play these games, but you have Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm assuming if hypothetically you're beelining the story, you're still, I would assume, hitting 70 hours, something like that.
From what I was seeing, it says that, like, if you're just beelining the story, I think you could have the main story done in about 30 hours.
But you're not. You're
But
gonna get stuck
but
doing
that's
this and
like
that,
that it is
reloading,
not
doing other
that
stuff.
game. It's
No.
not that game at all.
So you have this massive RPG and like classic RPG. Like this is point and click, fucking D and D and D.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like the biggest, probably the biggest sci-fi RPG ever to release, not counting like Space Sims and shit like that, or like a No Man's Sky thing, but like a new Bethesda IP in a brand new setting, ever all this stuff, and it's like 1,000 planets insanely built up from the ground with so much stuff that we don't even know about yet. That alone. And then you throw in Assassin's Creed and Alan Wake and Spider-Man and this and that and blah 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 and Mortal Kombat and Lords of the Fallen and Sea of Stars and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And things are changing release dates. They're like, hey, fuck it, we're gold. We're gonna move up a week. No.
Yeah, this is my backlog has like quadrupled in size just from this year alone.
It's nuts. And it's like, what do we cover when and where?
Yep.
Like the amount of
Well, the
episodes that we
where is
have that
pretty
are
much
like,
the same.
yeah, but it's like how many episodes do we have upcoming that are like this slash this? Which one are we gonna pick? What are we gonna
Yeah.
do? Like, who knows? And it's like here's an example. One of the next episodes that I'll be covering, like the next me one, is probably either Sea of Stars or Immortals of Avium. It feels like a waste. Why can't I just have these other games ready? I don't want to waste an episode on Immortals of Avium when it could be on like Starfield or some other shit. Immortals of Avium is getting pretty good
Immortals
reviews,
of
but
Avium.
it's not the same, bro.
Before we jump into the meat of this episode, if you are listening to this, if you listen to our rambles about this year in Baldur's Gate, please give us a 5-star rating if you so desire on any podcast platform that you may be listening to us on. Or if you are watching on YouTube, you can see our faces. You can see gameplay of the game we are talking about, which actually this episode may not have any gameplay. So you just come look at our faces. But most episodes will have gameplay.
Yeah.
Subscribe to us there, leave a comment. Those types of things are really the best way to support us. It does more than you would think, so we would appreciate that. Dave, tell me about this game.
Atlas Fallen. Developed by Deck 13. If you don't know the name, they are most well known for the 2013 2014 Lords of the Fallen. The upcoming one, the Lords of the Fallen, is not made by them. But
Does
they're
Deck
also
13 have any relation to Deck 9?
no.
Then why did this happen? And where's Deck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Where are they?
I don't know. Give it like 15 years, they'll probably be there. They'll
All
show
right.
up. They'll pop in.
Okay.
I always talk about this. We're always the population is growing at such a rate. The amount of people with interest are so sparse now, and so many people have their own communities and groups. It doesn't matter. Give us all the publishers, give us all the developers. There's going to be too many people and way too much content to consume in one person's lifetime, so it needs to be all made for everybody so that people can consume the things that they want. It's like TikTok. You get the algorithm you like, it's all made for you. You get it, and everyone else can have fun what they're doing. And then you die.
I did not follow the point of that whatsoever.
And then you die.
That part I got.
Here's the main thing. Don't
Yep.
lay off developers. Don't close studios.
That's what that was about.
That's what that's about.
All right.
And then
I agree with that message.
But besides Lords of the Fallen, they also made the Surge 1 and 2. Very soulsy. There are some little bits of soulsy DNA in this, but they're very light soulsy. Um, Published by Focus Entertainment. Came out not too long ago on August 10th, 2023. And believe it or not, it came out and I played it and I beat it and I had to look up a lot of stuff for it because goddamn is this game forgettable. Um, Came out for the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. This shouldn't be $60.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
Really feels like we're building up for like a 9 out of 10.
dude, it's me, and I swear I don't know why I do this. I pick all the games that I just like my body knows I'm gonna complain about, or it's perfect because the games that fall in my lap, I'm just gonna complain. There's so much to complain about.
You just love complaining.
I don't know if I'm too picky. I'm not. I can't be. I play everything just about. Fuck you, RTS games. Maybe one day I'll get there. Um,
I mean,
but
maybe you are picky, but you just still play everything.
I'm picky, but I like quality.
I mean, that's I think a pretty fair statement that most people would agree with.
It's
We
probably
all like
because
quality.
it's probably just because of the overall past few years where um it feels like it's a lot more quantity, and it feels like obviously things are rushed. Games aren't coming out fully finished, and to which I've had some issues with this game specifically. Um, I don't know, it's just uh
Complain to me about it. Tell me about Atlas Fallen. All I know is desert surfing.
that's pretty much the whole crux of the game. Look, if you bought this game or if you want to play this game, don't spend $60 on it
Well, if you
and
already bought it, it's too late.
trade it in and then rebuy it
What
later.
if you got it digitally?
I did get it digitally.
So then you're just fucked.
I am fucked. I fucked myself on this one because I always get so eager and I want to play games day one. Um, and to which I'll say right now, I played on my Series X with a digital copy, and to which there were issues. But the only reason you bought this game and you shouldn't be buying it for $60 is because of the sand surfing. There is
Yes.
nothing else to this game like how do I want to put this? It's like stomachly content wise.
I'm sorry. It's stomachly?
There's not much
What
there,
the
and this
fuck does that mean?
they throw a lot at you, but you just kind of want to throw it up. There's only so much you're gonna want to keep down, and the sand surfing and the combat is pretty much it.
I don't think stomachly is the word for that.
Digestible.
Maybe? Edible. This game is edible.
Let's go into things about this game. Let's talk about the story. Let me also throw out. There's a huge emphasis on co-op for this game. I played it solo because that's what I do, and I don't know anyone else who has wanted to go out and buy this and play this game. But regardless, if you play a game co-op, it's going to be more fun no matter the game. So I
Yep.
don't necessarily think co-op is like uh it's definitely a selling point, but it's not something that you should be used to um sway like a review or an opinion because not everyone can play co-op, and having the ability to play the whole game single player as an intended feature should be looked at almost as like the bare note because it's all just little add-ons, and if it can't fucking be fun solo, you're not really adding too
Han
much when you're
Solo.
on Han Solo. You're not really adding too much when there's co-op, but just having a buddy there to do stupid shit with. That's the only fun when it comes to co-op. But here's the story. You're dropped in the middle of just shit happening. You
Who's
are
you?
your guy.
Okay.
You're some guy. There's a whole lot of shit. There's like the higher up people, these super religious, you know, freaks and priests and all this stuff who are like
Freaks and
really
priests.
fucking they are because they all they there's this big god Thelos, and they're like, Thelos is the best, let's fucking make buildings to him and statues and let's believe in him and he's gonna be good to us. He's not. He's it's as any story when it comes to like a religion or a god or a deity, most likely, or at least in modern day, a lot of it is like, oh, guess what? You've been lied to your whole life. Here's all the things. And it's like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but I'm not going to believe you. It's all bullshit. There's where show me some content where there's a god and there's, I got a hiccup. And like they are actually doing what they're doing and being a god and not just being like, oh, I'm a lie. We're actually vampires and we're shitty and blah, blah, blah.
God of War.
Well, they're real, but like they're already shitty.
The gods being gods, though.
They are. But there's this group and like a whole bunch of these temples and churches and this religious group. There's this big war going on, and then you have the higher ups and all these people. Then you have like the lower people, like just like the normal poverty people who are just slaves and doing work and shit like that. So definitely not a equal group of people just because religion and all this stuff. On top of that, there's creatures and all these monsters throughout the sand, and you kind of find out early on that maybe these religious people aren't really the best thing going on, and that's when you get the gauntlet. You get the fucking sand gauntlet, which is
All
the
right.
whole thing.
I gotta know who. Are you a named character?
I don't No, you're just guy, you're just dude.
Do you make a character?
There is a character creator that's so who the fuck cares, because you have the option to toggle your helmet on and off, but like you're not like making anyone like recognizable or stand out. It's all whatever. There's no there's no
Is it
good.
very like basic character creator of like, here's these 3 faces, these 6 hairstyles,
It's a
these.
like yeah, it's pretty much that, a little more expanded on. You get a few more options, but it's nothing crazy. It's nothing special. Like it's not a character creator like a Baldur's Gate where you want to take the time. You just kind of want to get into the gameplay. Like I said, if you bought this game, you're here for the combat and the sliding. That's it.
Okay.
Um, this is where you get the gauntlet. You come across it and you basically get like shot up into, in a way, stardom, in infamy, depending on how you look at it, because apparently this gauntlet is this old artifact from like back in the war days between the religions and the gods and everything, and
Between the
people.
religions and the gods. That's yep. There it is.
As you can tell by my enthusiasm in my voice about this game, but apparently people have tried to wear it in the past and use it, and it only really selects certain people. It's like the Ben 10 Omnitrix, but you could take it on and off. um there's this big sort of argument when you find it, and sort of one of the paladin generals of like the religious fighting group, he's just a dickhead. He's a huge dickhead and he just wants it because power. um
That sounds right.
you end up getting it back, and from that point you are going around doing the little Dark Soulsy things. You get your map section. There's little anvils, which are like the bonfires where you can level up and do all this other general shit. But that's where you meet Nile. He's just this entity spirit inside the gauntlet who
Oh.
talks to you, and he's also this floating orb sometimes. He's
Like
basically
like
the
a
ghost
ghost.
from Destiny,
Okay. Is
but
he annoying like Ghost?
he's not at the same level, because like a lot of this game is exposition and lore that is not at all like hooking anybody. And like like so much of it was just my finger hitting X or B or A to skip, because like I could not care, because like okay, here's in this aspect, he's this ball and he talks to you, and even like when you're fighting or just generally out and about, but when you get to your first anvil, it sends out this wave of energy, and he's able to appear in like his spectral form of how he looked and just only be in that vicinity and just chit chat, talk. And every time you do a new anvil, he says something about what's going on or the area that you're in, but it's more so just like a statement or like a fact, something
So
to get
so
like
he's
the
not constantly like,
no, but at the same time, every time you get to an anvil, which I mean, these segmented maps, they're not small, but they're not massive. There's enough to keep them in like the main cities and just out and about so you can stay like resourceful. It still talks enough to like make it so I just don't give a shit. I already don't. The story hasn't hooked me. The characters haven't hooked me. Only here for the gameplay because I didn't expect from the get go that it would be very enthralling. And at the same time, he's just every anvil just spouting out 1 to 2 sentence things. And I was like, all right,
there's sand in my crotch.
not even, just more
Ah,
boring and
you could slide down sand.
literal. Um, if uh, it, quick spoiler warning, it doesn't fucking
Whoa,
matter. You find
whoa,
out later that Niall is like
whoa, 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 whoa.
he's like the brother of Thelos. He's
Spoiler.
also a god. The story doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't fucking matter. Who cares? I'm skipping all this shit and I'm finding it out and it means nothing to me. But just for the plot's sake, you find out that Niall, who's trapped in your gauntlet, is like the opposite of Thelos, and they're both gods. You have a god on your wrist, and they tried doing their own thing, and Thelos was like, I don't like how you run things, and fucking stuck him in a gauntlet and was like,
Ah,
bitch, and flipped him off and left.
yeah, my brothers and I do that to each other all the time.
Piles, get in the gauntlet.
Yeah, that's it right there.
And like as the big like plot reveal, I just even if I didn't predict it because I kept skipping everything anyway, like I don't care. It's so unfortunate when I feel like especially with smaller studios where they try so hard in certain aspects, but I feel like either as a consumer you can just generally look at a product and know what the general base of consumers will think of and want it for. You'll have the communities and the groups of people who will be invested in the lore and stuff like this, but as a game that's just released right before this or right in the middle of beginning of this massive schedule of crazy releases, a normal person's going to look at that and just go, ooh, cool sliding. That's it.
That's that. I mean, I know I've said sand sliding a couple times here, but that's literally all I know about this game, other than what you just have said now about the story and everything. All I knew is, oh yeah, it looks like you can slide around the sand. That's cool.
And like that's my point. And I don't want to sit here and bash the game and say things like that, especially for the people who do spend their days in and out creating these worlds and whatnot. But it's like you want to be able to go back and move some resources around to help better the game in other areas. And this is a very complaining review, so it's going to be all over the place. But that transitions to, where do you think they really spent the most time and resources in the right places? Because generally it's a pretty decently running game, but at one point it did fully crash on me, and at other points just due to either particle effects or things happening in the world or just the game running, there's decent amount of frame drops. There's texture and model pop-ins and pop-outs along with enemies. They sort of just, you come across an area and it's like, all right, like they try to keep it easy on themselves, either with like dust storms or like there are these snake or worm like, there's always fucking worms in the desert as enemies. They have these worm like creatures that'll pop out of the ground, so you really don't need much computing wise, or at least in that aspect, to have it like be there as you're walking up to it 50 feet away and have it be rendered and stuff. It can sort of just be available. But I feel like corners were cut and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm also soured because how many games so far this year have already come out not finished and having issues like this, and for something that's slightly exciting in maybe two mechanical aspects of the game, everything else falls flat and you're having the same issues everyone else is having, and it's just adding on to the shit pile. This is quite the monologue I'm going on.
It sounds like you're saying less resources into performing well and more into sand sliding.
I mean, that's the whole gist. And it's here's some more complaints on
Who
that,
cares if it
because
performs well if you can slide in the sand?
the way the maps are laid out is you'll get your occasional like decent sized towns and like maybe some little bits of forward and back to travel, very small segmented things that you're only able to talk to people and like pick up missions and stuff for. And then you get out to the actuals, there's like two or three big sections of the map, but inside of that is variations. It's not just a full desert. But do I doubt you looked into too often into when Lego 2K Drive was initially coming out, but one of the big aspects of that game is on the fly, depending on what terrain you're on, the vehicle will change.
Yeah,
But
I remember that in the trailer.
apparently it's so touchy, and or at least at launch it was so touchy that like if you were to do a drift hypothetically on a road and have like one of your back tires go a little too far on the grass, the game would assume you're going into off-road and immediately start to change and like morph your car into the off-road version, and then you get back onto the road and it morphs back to a point where seen in a few reviews where it's very janky in a way where it feels like it's just constantly flipping
I'm
and changing.
waiting to see how this is going to connect to Atlas Fallen.
It connects in the way where it's not just a full desert. There's like some little forest sections, there's some towns and stuff, but there's sand in between pathways. So you'll go to do your sand surfing and then you'll hit like a patch of rocks that are like 3 feet wide. And then you hit sand again. And then maybe you'll hit something else until
Can't
you're
surf
out.
through the rock or like still
No,
slide with momentum.
you hit a certain point on the ground and the texture, and all of a sudden you're just kind of like running, and then boom, you're back to like sliding again, and then you still got to like pick up speed. And another big issue overall I feel like with the game is it just feels so slow. Even the sliding feels so slow. You're able to get like one upgrade to make it go faster in the form of there are these plants as resources that are like strewn about. You use those and these shards, which you collect off enemies and just from completing quests or just, looting. You use those and combine them to upgrade your skills. But one of the perks that you can get is while you're sliding, either you can pick up a plant with your action button or just pick it up automatically while you're sliding, as long as you slide like into it. You get a boost of speed if you hit a plant, and you can upgrade this perk I think once, either between 2 or 3 times. You can go through and collect the plants to give you the speed boost, but you have this giant tan desert just straight surrounding you on all sides, and you have to somehow find these plants in the correct like trail to be able to hit them all and gain that like connected speed boost. But at the same time you have particle effects going on all around you, you're going as fast as you can, and with the texture popping and issues, you're supposed to be able to find these tiny green, blue, and red plants in enough of a time for you to be able to adjust your course to hit it dead on, and then go continue to surf until you find the next one, or you'll just be going this or that if you're not hitting some other terrain and just running. And the running is slow too. It's all so slow in that way.
That's not what you want to hear in a game where the only thing I know is that.
I mean, a lot of the rest of the story and lore comes from just kind of going around and finding, for some reason, gold, and then also like blue translucent collectibles in the form of notes and like audio logs, which I don't care. I don't care about anything anyway. So
It's
like why
just
in
period.
general, so like why am I gonna listen to or like read some note? Like I even struggle in Baldur's Gate 3 to like immerse myself, to be like I'll come across a scene and I'll pick up a note and I'll be like, this is so, like I'll read the first two sentences. I'm like, this is so boring to whatever scene I walked up to. I don't care. Like it has to be gripping. I gotta walk up to a scene and be like, oh, my lover, I hope you arrive safely, but you come across him dead. Attention. Or if like I go, but then I go into like an office building and it's like, oh, Jim should have sent over that fax by Tuesday, but he didn't. And I'm like, okay, you lost me. And then it could be something great at the end, but you lost me. I don't care. I don't care.
Boy,
I'm going on tangents. I get so fired up when I'm
little baby
upset.
boy Dave is letting all the crying out tonight.
And it's like this is what I do with these games too, because I tried my best to almost 100% the first like big map section. Whenever I get a game and I'm super excited because I was talking about Atlas Fallen, I was hopeful until I played the desert section of Final Fantasy 16, and then I was like, oh no, this might be more of that. It's more of that. All right, I was doing the whole first section. Whenever I try to play a new game that I have some sort of enjoyment for or assumption that I might enjoy, I try to almost burn myself out in the beginning because that at least helps me know if the content that's there besides the main story or campaign is worth my attention. And it'll be
Okay, I
really
get what you're saying. You do like everything in the beginning to see what's worth doing.
exactly like you have side quests, favors, which are like bitch side quests. The whole game is basically just a fetch
Also
quest
known
or,
as
or a
fetch
kill quest.
quests
It's a fetch quest or a kill quest or a bitch quest, whatever
or
it
bitch
is.
quest, yeah.
Uh, or like you're going and like I don't know, maybe there's an enemy to kill, or there's so little to do. There's so fucking little. Um, there are these. What are these? They're so I don't like these. So they a lot,
You
a
don't
lot
say.
a lot of the game is platforming too. You early on, along with the just general abilities of the gauntlet, one of them is a dash, which you can upgrade, which you have to upgrade throughout the story. You're able to just like jump up in the air and do a dash. A lot of it is similar to the combat and just general movement of like Final Fantasy 16 or Devil May Cry 5, where it's like a lot of flashy combat and movement and also a lot of airborne combat and movement. So eventually you'll be able to get that dash and be able to dash 3 times without touching the ground. It's a lot about staying up in the air.
The floor is lava.
Floor is lava. So you end up getting this dash, and a lot of the game are centered around those dashes, or the game uses those dashes because a lot of the core is centered around platforming. A lot of being able to make long distances with those dashes. You also have a double jump, so you're going to be double jumping and triple dashing across one whole platform just to be
Are
able
you
to
ever
make it.
double dashing?
Well, yeah, you got to get double dash before you triple dash.
All right, well, who are your characters for that?
Oh, fuck you. Shut up. um, um, you're making me lose my train of thought again. Son of a, I'm the worst conductor right now. What was I talking about?
Triple dashing and
Triple
double
dashing.
dashing and Mario
Uh,
Kart.
so a lot of that goes into like this platforming. So one of the optional side things that you can do, and again, some of these, a lot. How do I want to put this?
Either some of or a lot of. There's one
I
or the other.
feel like sometimes in certain games, again, that aren't necessarily a AAA quality,
Okay.
they make the content that they can make
Okay.
with the resources and time that they have. Because
This is game development. Yep.
what game developer, unless it really doesn't fit, wants to scrap anything that they worked on? I feel like sometimes in games like this, they add this most unnecessary bit of side content as forced story missions. Like they just incorporate it because they know that no general person who's going to pick up this game and play it just for the sliding and the combat is going to go out of their way to do these things. To which one of them is this
I'm real curious about what this is.
a connect the dots race.
Uh,
So
like
let me
you're
let me
you're
back up
going through the
1 second.
numbers, making a little picture in the end.
Let me back up 1 second.
All
To
right.
be able to come across some of the chests to loot and these anvils, you use the power of the gauntlet to raise things out of the sand. A lot of this also has to do with platforms. You have to be able to upgrade your gauntlet to be able to lift higher and like larger platforms, but you use raise to bring them up in the air, to which it's not like a timed thing where you have to like do it quick and like hop on the platform and then to the next place. It's just you're good. It's there forever. You don't have to raise it ever again. So, you use the raise ability on these around the map. There are these like glowing spots on the ground surrounded by this like black goo symbiote shit, and you find these light spots and you use rays on them, and this crystal just fucking comes out of the ground. It then from the tip shoots a beam of light to the next location. Now, it's this blue beam of light. If you don't make it to the next crystal and raise it, that beam of light will slowly turn red, and you know your time is running out. And if you fuck up, you gotta, I believe, start from the beginning. I did almost all of them in the first section. I didn't have to start from the beginning, and I wouldn't have to start from the beginning because once that first section was over, I never did one again unless it was story related. So, what you do when you come across these things is there's generally a collection of 5 to 8 crystals, and you're going in this path, jumping and dashing and sliding to go from crystal to crystal to crystal to crystal, pretty much in a full circle, because the last crystal you do is like 20 feet away from the first one. You just create this thing. You get like a chest at the end, and it's like I did them, and like you get some like money or whatever XP like stuff, some resources to upgrade. It's just not worth it, and it's not fun. Like especially with the speed that you're going to already. There's so many ways that this game I feel like is held back. It's got I feel like so many training wheels, and I feel like you just got to have some more fun with it. And this is where I mean I don't think any normal person would go to that side activity and do it more than once. I feel like they would do it and then they would realize they had to do it again for a main mission and get mad. That's what I
Yeah.
would assume, because it's not fun. There's probably other stuff too. I beat this game like a week ago. I don't. It's so forgettable. It's I think
That sounds
I think I deleted it already.
that sounds almost like having to do Sudoku in Mass Effect Andromeda.
It's not fun. It's not. Let's uh, uh another big aspect of this story is like you come across one of these people, part of like the religious thing. She just wants you to find her sister. You find out later the sister's dead, and she's one of the ones who tried to use the gauntlet beforehand.
Spoilers.
Who? No one's playing this fucking game for the story. Nobody. Zero. Zero.
I'm pretty excited to jump into this campaign.
Oh, bullshit. Also, let me just throw this out there.
Throw it
I
out there.
spent $60 on this game.
We've
I
heard.
I pretty much 100%ed that first section, and
Yep.
I beat it after 9.5 hours.
So not long.
Not satisfied either.
Quick and unsatisfied. That is the story of my life.
Like I mentioned, there's just a bunch of creatures just out and about. There are you're really not going to come across just like a creature. When you enter in whatever, it's going to be a group. It's going to be like one big guy, whether it's this crab thing or this scorpion thing or this the worm thing.
So it's just animals, big animals in a desert.
Yeah. And then you got some flying things, and they're
Oh,
smaller. They're like the mobs, and like only really there to help you build up.
the flies are the mob of the desert.
They are. But the main cycle and like loop is you come across these bigger enemies, and they have this armor on sections of their body, and in the top corner of the screen it shows you like the head, say for the crab for example, the head, the body, the left pincer, and the right pincer. they will be filled in with either two colors, red or brown. The red ones are the ones that matter. You can attack wherever you want, but as long as you defeat the health of, say you come across the crab and it just has a red head and a red left pincer. As long as you take out the head and the left pincer, it's dead.
Okay.
Like you're good. And that's it.
Got it.
And it gets old. Um, the on top of that, you're fighting from what I've seen with three main weapons, although you can only use two at once. Is some sort of like spear, sword, whip thing. Like it's one of
Wow.
those like sword spears, but like you can use it and it like kind of sections off, and it's like a
Oh,
big slat.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
There's that. There's an axe. These are all made of sand. Everything's sand. Your butthole is
The
sand.
weapons are made of sand?
They're made of sand.
Wait,
We'll get
hold
into
on.
it.
Hold
We'll
on
get
now.
into it.
Okay.
You have a gauntlet made of sand and magic and a
Your
god.
gauntlet's made of sand?
The gauntlet's made of sand.
Jesus.
Jesus.
There is sand in the crotch of everything.
And there's like these sand gloves, boxing fists with pointed knuckles, shits, whatever, for punching. You use those along with tiered skills that you get throughout the game, either by completing quests or finding them in chests or just defeating enemies. When you defeat those bigger enemies, they'll drop this like diamond, crystal shaped rock that you will raise up out of the ground and punch with all the fury in the world and
All the
take out
fury of the sand.
all the fury of the sand. And you take out either a random, crystal shard or some resources, or you just get a new skill. And the way that works is the skills are tiered. You have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 and tier 2 have one main like action combat skill and three like passives. The third one has one main action combat and two passives. As you play through the game, you will acquire more currency or whatever where you can spend it at the anvil to unlock those slots to be able to put skills and passives in there because you're kind of starting off very limited. But based on those tiers and those skills that you have in there, underneath the health bar is a blue bar called a momentum bar that is also tiered 1, 2, and 3 as you're filling it up. As you're filling up these bars, once you hit the full tier 1, you can use all of your tier 1 action skills, and I believe the passives become like active. Like they're working now. And then you
Okay.
get to like you fill up the bar to tier 2, you can use tier 2 skills. And
When you use the skills, does it make the bar like,
no.
is it like, okay, so it's not like a resource you're using when you fill it.
No, the only thing is like these skills will have their own personal cooldowns, and you just have to keep the momentum going by continuing combat and trying not to get hit as best of your ability.
Okay. And then I
Um,
assume once you're out of combat, the meter like it empties.
yeah,
Okay.
you can empty it yourself too. There's a skill that also works with the parry system where this is where all the combat is also very Dark Souls and whatnot, very or not Dark Souls, very Devil May Cry and very Dark Souls light and like akin to that more modern combat. I feel that's very dodge and parry focused like never before. But this is a parry game. You parry certain enemies and they will crystallize. They will just kind of like freeze solid and like get covered in crystals and whatnot, and they'll be prone to attacks. Bigger enemies like the crab, for example, you have to parry 3 times in enough time to get them to crystallize and freeze, and then again, open to weak attacks. But if you build up your momentum bar enough, you'll be able to use certain skills, like an ultimate where you use both triggers, and it's called, I think, Shatter, where you do this massive attack, and it ends up just, I believe, crystallizing them regardless. You can spend whatever and just get them weak. This game's not great.
Do you know the giant enemy crab thing from E3?
For massive damage.
Every time you're saying big like big crab. I was just thinking of giant enemy crab.
Yeah, I've thought about it a couple
This
times
game we really
myself.
focus on the realistic battles. So here's a giant enemy crab.
Um, on top of bringing that momentum bar up, as you're hitting those tiers, whatever weapon you are using, which it's either a light or a heavy in the forms of like you have two of those three weapons I mentioned earlier equipped at once. One is an X and one is a Y for attacks. But as you're filling up the momentum bar, as you're hitting completing tier 1 and tier 2, the weapons will evolve and grow stronger throughout battle. Like the axe, for example, everything's made of sand, so it's going to use the power of the gauntlet and like grow and whatnot. So as you hit tier 1 and you have that filled, the axe will have a much longer range. You'll have a slightly different, combo and the combo animation that'll just be the general like XXXX or YYXX, blah 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 blah, and it'll get more flashy as it goes on. And in between that is when you have the momentum bar filled up, you'll use left trigger and either X, Y, or B to use those skills that you have equipped if you have enough of that momentum build up. And the last little section is left trigger and A, which will be your health. When you start off, you have three, technically four. It's one main like health orb, and then underneath are three extras. Hitting left trigger and A will use up one of them, but it'll use up like the main one. But as you're hitting and doing damage, it'll slowly build up. So as long as you're not getting hit and you can keep hitting, you won't go down. You'll just keep using health and then building it back up. It's not like you have to go and like buy a health potion or do. You just gotta not suck. That's it.
I know that you're in crybaby mode right now,
Mm-hmm.
but a couple of these things sound like cool concepts.
And here's the thing.
Oh,
Here's
here
the
we go.
thing.
Here we go. Oh boy. Oh god.
Because what was going through my mind throughout the entirety of playing this game is that it is a gimmick game. It has the sand sliding, it has this momentum bar and skill thing. That is the two best things from this game, and honestly, the only two things from this game.
That's it. That's the only two.
Might as well. I didn't really pay attention to much else. But
I don't know. I heard connect the dots is in this.
Ooh. But those two are the high points. The sand sliding is entertaining here and there. I was getting bored in general with the entire entity of the game, so it wasn't doing enough to keep me that invested. I wanted it over with.
That's what you always like to hear in a game review. I want it over with.
Well, that's because I'm a passionate fuck, and I really wanted this game to be good, and it's not. But you have the sand sliding, and you have the momentum bar, which you have your skills, and like the way the skills work too is like you also have to. I mean, the skills themselves, you can use those resources like the plants and extra shards to upgrade them and have them be more effective. But they're almost like they're not like medals. My brain's thinking of pogs. They're almost like pogs in a way. You keep a bunch of them in your pocket and you can just switch them out whenever, but you're not like entitled. You're not like forced to go with anything. So like you'll get a new skill and you'll be like, I don't want to use that, and you just never touch it. You can just focus on whatever you collect and you like. Like it gives it gives the game a lot of replayability that it will never see.
Poggers.
Pog. Let's see. Let me scroll through with my eyes. If there's anything else I missed before I get to my biggest fucking issue with this game. No, I think we're here. So for some reason, and again, this is a full priced $60 2023
That's
release.
discounted these days. Well, actually. Why a pig noise?
Well, actually,
why pig?
this is The combat, it's Souls light. It's very action based. It's a lot of
Mhm.
enemies in a game where you're only ever going to fucking buy it for the combat. As of when I played it, and I'm never touching it again, the lock on system is broken to shit. Especially, you have enemies with body parts. I
Yep.
want to focus on his pincer. I want to focus on this tail. I want to focus
Yep.
on the worm's head.
Mhm.
You'll lock on and it'll work like 20% of the time. The rest of it, no matter what's happening, you lock on, your camera is staring straight at the ground or right up in the sky. And you click to lock
That's
off,
good.
and then you lock back on again, and it's like, I'm gonna get.
Why does it
That
do
was
that?
weird. And then you're like, all right, I can't use this at all.
Uh, when it's working right, do you? Is it like different body parts you can lock onto the? You get to like choose what part.
Yeah, it's your
Okay.
general shit. You lock on, you use the right stick to choose which one you want to switch to while you're already locked on. But it
What if you're
doesn't.
looking at the ground because it's broken and you try switching, like
It's,
with the right stick? Are you still just in the ground or in the
oh
sky?
yeah, no, it'll switch, but like you'll like here's the enemy. I'm staring at the ground. There's another enemy over here. Now I'm looking at the ground over here. Like
Okay, I
it's
see.
yeah, it's fucked. The
They
game
just
is.
really it's actually not broken.
Hmm.
It's because the lock-on system is also made of sand. So
It
you have to look
is.
down at the sands for it to work.
It is, and you didn't get that upgrade. A whole big part of the story too, and like this also why it's so fucking boring is a lot of what the main missions and the story that you're going through is you're all you're doing is collecting parts for the gauntlet and then collecting these weird teardrop things scattered throughout either in a search for them or defeating a boss to get them to upgrade it so you can either dash more or raise things better. That's all you're doing, and like
Are
that's a
are
big
you
focus.
saying that you're running around the world collecting these things to put in your gauntlet that
But
make it stronger
the
and then like you
problem is
snap at
that's
the
the
end?
story. That's the story. You have some dude in your wrist going, all right, we got to go here now to get this piece. All right, now that you got
Is
this
the
piece,
dude in
let's
your
go
wrist
around.
Thanos?
Might as well just be like, I don't know, the pinky of Thanos. He looks just like the Thelos looks nothing like the dude that's in your wrist. The dude that's in your wrist looks like he's straight out of James Cameron's Avatar.
What's the guy's name? Let me look him up.
Niall or Nile, Nyaal.
Nile Atlas Fallen. Let's take a good look at him. Well, he's not really coming up when I'm just getting a lot of the characters on the game cover, whoever that may be.
Yeah, I mean this game is no one's playing it anyway. Go to pictures. Go to images.
I'm in images.
Do you see the one where there's a dude standing next to with a long braided ponytail, standing next to an anvil?
No.
Did you type in Nile Atlas Fallen?
Yes.
The fuck did you do then? There's three pictures: Atlas Fallen with a two in the corner, Atlas Fallen with a one next to it, and Nile. And then the fourth picture is Nile standing next to the anvil.
Hmm. Let's get a bigger look at that. Oh wait, yeah, zooming in, I see. Oh yeah, that kind of does look like an avatar.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. It looks like a Pandoran.
Oh yeah, is that what they are?
Yeah,
Why is it called Avatar?
because they're becoming the Pandorans through the in-game universe's animus.
In game?
Ah, shit, in movie, in in universe. um, the only other last thing I have to say about this game really is that overall like it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look stunning. Like it's not gonna blow anyone away. It's a good looking game, but it's nothing insane. Like I think the particle effects are pretty neat. Like they do fine. Like when you're sand skating and whatnot. But again, like you have issues with the pop in and some texture things. But again, like I don't think you're not here for the views as well. And like this is another little tidbit of smaller games is that I feel like they really try to over saturate the world with like very contrasting big colorful, crazy things. Like
Colorful sand.
here's this giant purple and white, upside down floating thing, and over here's a big floating red and black thing, and over here's a big blue, building, and over here's a giant green forest. They do that shit, but like they don't put in the fidelity for it. And knowing that they don't have like the full fidelity for to make things look amazing, they just make cool looking things far away.
Are
You know?
you made of sand? Is that a reveal? Do you become like the Sandman?
I wish. Send me down the drain, put me in a sewer level. That's my hell.
Why are the weapons made of sand?
I don't know.
I'm not grasping that very well.
Why is what? Because the power of the spirit of Nile inside the gauntlet is
Is
giving
Nile
you.
sand?
Nile's not sand.
Then what does he have to do with sand weapons?
I don't know. The whole point of the game is you're going around just collecting boring ass shit and becoming stronger, and
Becoming
then
the sand.
taking out Thelos, who ends up, taking over the body of the dickhead from the beginning of the game. And
Is
it's just
Thelos sand?
no.
I just feel like I really gotta be clear on what is sand and what isn't. I'm gathering that the people are not made of sand, but the tools are made of sand.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. What's your score on this, Dave?
I'm gonna give a double score.
No, whoa. What does that mean? What's a double score? Is this out of 20?
So my initial score was a 6 out of 10.
Yep.
But now I've had time to think about it.
Yeah, no, this is a real thing. I've done this before too.
So I'm gonna give it my initial. I just got done with it 6 out of 10. But now that the I don't know 30-second honeymoon phase with it is over, and I really got to think about how much I was dissatisfied, I'm gonna go with a 5.
So really, the real score is a 5 out of 10.
It's a fucking 5 out of 10, bro. It is. It is. It is. It is. It's such a disappointment. It's a
Yeah,
death.
I don't remember what game I did that with recently. Where I felt about it, but I felt a certain way about it. And the more I thought about it, and the more I played it, I ended up dropping it down a number or two. I don't remember what game that was, but yeah, no, that's a real thing. There is the high of finishing a game, even if it's not a good game. You
Oh,
get the
yeah.
high of finishing it, and you're like, oh yeah, I feel satisfied with this. Let's give it this score. But then, especially, I don't know if you have this when like making the show sheet for it, and kind of going over everything again because you're kind of like reviewing your thoughts in your head.
You're reviewing your thoughts, but you're forced to go into so much more detail, which
Yep.
really gives you to its like downfall, a much more educated and informed opinion. And it's like, ooh, now I can really critique it. And
Yeah, you can realize like, oh, it could go either way. You're like, oh, actually, there's a lot about this game that's really cool. Or,
mhm.
oh, the more I think about it, the more this game was not that great.
Whenever people make comments and they're like, I really like how you describe this, I'm like, I feel like I shit words right out my mouth. Like I feel like I am not cohesive or in any way that's in a way that can come across to people being like, I agree. That is worded well. I go, no,
We
I'm just
should have done this episode from the beach,
no.
and then we could have been in the sand.
You want to do the Skull and Bones episode from a little boat?
Yes, yes, I do.
I
I absolutely do.
if I am not pissed drunk for the Skull and Bones episode,
You're the one reviewing it.
I
You just are. It's meant to be. It has to be this way.
it's I'm not spending any money on it.
It'll be a business expense.
It's the
All
only
right.
way.
We got a write in from our friends over at the DualSense podcast. Their username is the DualSense podcast with no spaces over on Threads, the new hip thing. They said, hope they get a sequel to capitalize on the promise of that world and combat. Speaking about Atlas Fallen. Dave, how would you feel about a sequel with the potential to make the good parts better and the bad parts good?
It would really need to be a huge overhaul in like an Assassin's Creed 1 to an Assassin's Creed 2 type deal, because you have the sand sliding, you have the momentum bar, and the evolution with that and how it works with combat. That's it. That's all you have. And like I find it interesting specifically because certain games definitely do deserve and or need sequels to have them either be appreciated or finally be what the whole idea was initially trying to go for. And then you'll have games, like Rage 2, things that'll just happen. And like no one wanted it, no one needed it, no one expected it, and it just kind of happened. And at the end of the day, it feels like a waste of resources. Where I'm going with this is I remember playing Days Gone initially, and I don't know where it is now. Decisions change over time, maybe, but that was one that really got a cult following, and very I was very against it initially. I played like 3/4 of the way through.
Brian.
God damn it, O'Brien! You better be listening, O'Brien. Like that's always going to be ingrained in my head. But the interesting thing about that game was, I think it really dragged on in a lot of places. I think it had a lot of cool aspects to it, but I was very down bad and like sour to a point where I was very against the game. And you know what? A lot of people felt the same way, and it wasn't reviewed critically well. And initially, there were plans for a sequel. As of today's date, I'm one of those people that are now very much so in the side to get a Days Gone specific sequel, because I believe for that game, with what it had already established, has a much better ability to be able to be a better product given more work, a little more time, and to change up a few things. I think that game specifically has a lot of potential and promise. I don't see that whatsoever with Atlas Fallen, besides the two gimmicks that they had.
Well, let me throw this out there for you. If you were a week away from playing Days Gone, would you have said no sequel? Get it away. Maybe
Day
Atlas Fallen just needs just a little time to,
no,
you know,
no.
make a little sand foundation
Days
for
Days
you, and then you
Days
can want the full sand castle.
Days Gone is a different situation in the fact of I thought it was bloated, but when I finally got past that, because that's like a 40-50 hour game, it shouldn't be. It should not be whatsoever, but it is. Like I said, Atlas Fallen here is a 9.5 hour game, and that was after I did most of the stuff in that first section. What can you add? What are you gonna do if these are the ideas that you've already put in, these connect the dot things, and just you know here's a flashy combat system that everybody and more just played a month ago with Final Fantasy 16 for pretty much honestly the same amount of time that I put in for this entire game. In the way that you look at Days Gone and everything that they've done, in a way that they've built that up, that has promise and potential. Where this game had a cool few ideas, but I feel like if they were to do anything with it, that would be a 100% waste of resources.
I think it just needs more sand,
In certain places, I 100% agree, because I
like the
don't want to
crotch.
slide and then run and then slide and then run and then slide.
All right, let's notable game releases. We got a few this week.
Got some
Uh,
good ones.
yeah, let's start off with Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. That is coming on August 25th, 2023 to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Unfortunately, listen, From Software, they have my complete trust to make good games. This game is going to be good. It just is. I have never played Armored Core before. I have no connection there. And this is unfortunately one of those games I think is going to kind of slip by the wayside for me just with the way this year is until eventually I will play it.
If you are listening in the multiverse, though, be sure to stop by on Fridays at about 3 o'clock to hear Editor Al's opinion on the game.
He is excited for it.
Oh, no doubt. You do the next one.
All right, Under the Waves is coming on August 29th, 2023 to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XNS, and PC. This is an all underwater adventure game. It gives me walking sim vibes, but it's, I guess, a swimming sim? But I guess I can't say that with full certainty as someone who's not played it, but
So
it
it's a
looks good.
suspense story, walking, swimming sim game. It looks like
Yeah.
fun, little puzzle solver, your general small little bash. And on the same day, finally, we got Sea of Stars coming out on August 29th, 2023 to PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One. Also, Game Pass day one.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
that is what
Didn't
that
know that.
means. Yeah. PC and on Switch. This is, if you do not know, made by the same people who made The Messenger back in 2018. This is actually a prequel set in the same universe and the same whatever as The Messenger, but completely different games, completely different ways of being played. I have no idea how they're connected. I've never played
I
Messenger.
remember them saying that like it's one of those situations where yeah, it's in the same universe. Technically, you don't need to know
Mm-hmm.
any knowledge about the messenger to play this game.
Yeah, I did play back. Every year Xbox does their like summer game demos shit. I played the demo for Sea of Stars, and it's not on the same level of excitement or just general whatever as I was for Eastward, but it's up there. It's up there.
It's a little bit more of a westward for you.
There's just that small group of games that are just very Dave games, and there are these pixelated RPGs. For some
It,
reason, they're just
there's
want
daytime
them.
Dylan games and pixelated Dave games.
Pixelated RPG Dave games. You give me an Eastward, you give me a Sea of Stars, you give me Octopath Traveler. I'm
And
busy.
then we have the Crying Lyle games.
The Crying Loud games. Those are some pretty good games too, honestly. Uh, thank
All
you,
right.
thank you, Dylan, for
Thank you, Dave.
about an hour more of me complaining.
I really got hitched up with the whole sand thing once I found out things were made of sand.
Yep.
And I've not been able to let that go. I don't know why it's taking up so much of my brain, but it's like it's bothering me that the
Oh,
weapons are made of sand, and I don't know why.
we're at the end of the we're at the end of the episode here. But you
Yeah.
know what? I just remembered two things, so let's just shout them out
All
anyway.
right, sure.
As you're playing through, you get different, or like you can buy and get different armor sets. Those armor sets will have like a preset level to which you'll use like your currency or resources to upgrade them. So like if you can only upgrade them like twice. So if you have like some armor set and it was level 4, you can level it up to level 5 and then level 6. Then you got to find a set of armor that's like maybe level 6. You can do level it up to level 7, level 8, shit like that. And depending on which armor or whatever you decide to put on is like, I don't know, maybe you get extra this or extra that. It's all set towards a certain play style, and they'll change your look and whatnot. But something that I haven't said, but something that was in my mind fully is that everything from just like the way the world was built and the way that the characters and everything was designed, it feels like this could have been like someone watched Godfall got released and was like, I could do that but better, and they didn't. They just did it different.
Which one was
um
Godfall?
The Godfall was the initial
It was the
PS5,
yeah,
the
I
first
remember.
PS5 game.
You hated that game.
So fucking
You
dude.
hated it.
The Borderlands company does decently well making Borderlands. They fuck up a lot too because they don't know how to balance their fucking games. But every time another looter game comes out, and especially one that's underneath them comes out, they don't do it the same way. It works, and it's the best. And Destiny is not good. It's not good. It's not good.
Maybe it's just that Borderlands is the Dave Looter games.
It's the best.
And the
It's
other
the
ones are just
best.
not the Dave Looter games.
It's the best. But they don't do it. They don't. They make shitty looters. Shitty looters. Redfall, shitty looter. Coda Borderlands it up. Easy. Great game. 8 out of 10. 7.7 out of 10. What was the other thing? When you upgrade your armor.
Oh, there's another. Okay.
Yeah. Who cares? No one's playing this game. You get perk points, and you can, like I said before, you can, one of them is you can upgrade the speed boosts you get as you're sliding. You get perk points. You can spend them on perks. They're just general passives, more health, and
You're saying you
extra.
spend the perk points on perks?
Believe it or not, but you only get the perk points when you upgrade your armor. That could get super expensive.
Is the armor made of sand? And I know I'm asking that for everything, but I'm legitimately asking that because I was complaining about the weapons being made of sand, and I thought that's where this was going to all go.
No, the armor is not made of sand.
Okay. Are we made of sand?
No, we went over that. Maybe you are. You're closer to a beach than I am.
True. Therefore, I am sand.
Can you hear that?
Can I hear that? No. But I do have my headphones pretty low, so that's probably being picked up at audio, whatever that is.
I was clicking my finger.
Wow. So happy for you. Let's finish this.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, thank you so much for being on YouTube. Thank you so much for being on Spotify. Thank you so much for being on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being on Google Podcasts. Thank you so much for being on Good Pods. Thank you so much for being on. What else do we have?
There's a lot.
If you're listening to this, thank you so much.
There's a lot of small ones.
Like we mentioned in the beginning, if you'd like to see any gameplay, possibly not for this episode specifically, but any gameplay on top of all of our episodes in the background, check out YouTube for that, as well as our silly little faces, our clean-shaven little boy faces. This game,
Goodbye.
this game sucks.